If you ask many college students what they wish they had studied in middle and high school that they didn't get, many of them would say they wish they had learned something to deal with the bullying and with just the relationship stuff that goes on between students, between people in general. That was a source of stress for a lot of them, and they just didn't have tools to deal with it. Many of them have found tools in at the college level. I teach courses in peace psychology, the psychology of violence and nonviolence, and many students who have studied those subjects with me say that they should begin teaching nonviolence, probably in elementary school, but certainly by middle school. And that would have helped them in so many ways if they had learned some of those stories of nonviolence and principles of nonviolence much earlier. Well, nonviolence is not a major school subject, obviously. Students may think it should be, and certainly my students at the college level have that opinion. They see that it would have been valuable to them, and they cite bullying and cyberbullying quite a lot. But the school day is filled up with subjects that started to occupy time slots back in the 19th century in the United States. When compulsory education became a thing, the school day quickly filled up with things like reading and mathematics, arithmetic, history, social studies. And those subjects have the characteristic that they're not very controversial. Everybody agrees that those are providing valuable skills, especially reading. But those subjects are also safe. They are that they're not going to create a stir in the community. We are seeing a stir in the community nowadays because there is an organized effort not to teach liberal values or what are seen as liberal values in the public schools. But the school day doesn't seem to have room for a nonviolence course or for things that would occupy that sacred time in our educational establishment. It's really tough to crack into the curriculum. I think there's resistance to teaching nonviolence in the schools also because nonviolence is about change. It's sort of teaching students how to rebel successfully when they see something that's wrong. It provides a set of skills for protest and for communication and for a number of things that would frankly be a pain in the neck for many school administrators. Their jobs are already tough enough, and if the students become even more of a hassle, more of a pain in the neck, what are they going to do with that? So people in authority often don't see the need for education in nonviolence. People who are lower down in the pecking order do, because nonviolence is often the way powerless people get their needs met in the face of authorities that may be oppressive or blind to their needs. So if nonviolence became more of a thing in our public schools, what would that look like? A big debate often when we're introducing new material is whether to do it by infusion, which means try to get it to be present in the subjects that we already teach, find examples and materials that will carry the new ideas along with material that has to be covered anyway to meet standards. So that's infusion. The other model would be to create a new subject and try to elevate it to be a major subject, perhaps a required subject for some of the grades in our school progression. My feeling about that contrast is that we need both. We need to have courses that are explicitly about nonviolence, but also related skills like mediation and conflict resolution, diplomacy. And there are professions under those headings, and students might become interested in them earlier if they had exposure to them in school. I think that creating reforms around nonviolence education should be accompanied by a greater awareness in the education system about the nature of learning. We're still kind of stuck in, a lot of us are, a lot of schools and many of the people who are working in them, they're stuck in what Paulo Freire called the banking model of education, which is like teachers make deposits of knowledge in students as if they were little piggy banks or something, and gradually the knowledge accumulates, and that's what education is. But that's a very silly model from the point of view of a psychologist who studies learning and cognition. And I think there are changes we can make in our education system that are more realistic in terms of how learning actually works. Learning works by active assimilation of new information to the knowledge and opinions that already exist in a person's mind. And what exists in a person's mind is absolutely unique for every individual. One size doesn't fit all. And some attempt needs to be made to figure out where each student is before trying to lead them a little bit further into higher levels of learning. There are lots of good ideas about how that should work, from Piaget to Vygotsky to modern cognitive psychology, and the overriding message of all of that study of learning is that learning is not limited to the school curriculum. People who work in the curriculum and instruction side of professional educators, they're often thinking along the lines that the curriculum is the be-all and end-all of student learning, and that what goes into the curriculum will go into students' minds. And if we leave it out of the curriculum, students will not have it. We'll spare them from it or something like that. That notion is also very unrealistic, because young people have a fire hose of information coming at them from every direction all the time. And the curriculum is only a part of it. It's probably, just a fraction of it. But whatever the learning is that really sticks and takes hold, it starts out being in parts, and it grows toward being more of a whole. That's true when you're learning music. You start out with single notes, and you progress to arpeggios and simple melodies, and eventually, as music learning progresses, the person's mind can think in terms of whole compositions and variations and creative ways of playing and expressing emotions through the music. Every form of learning is like that. It proceeds from little parts that are difficult at first because they're so unfamiliar. But through repeated exposure and lots of practice, those parts become wholes, and we are able to deal with them more in a more virtuosic way. A virtuoso is a person whose musical skills are so skilled that they can immediately play whatever's in their mind when it comes to music. Another thing I would say is that many teachers are already doing things that are very good and very helpful, very much in the spirit of nonviolence or peace education. And we don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. Whatever changes are made to highlight nonviolence education more strongly, it should honor and support the work that is already going on. I made the mistake of thinking years ago, 25 years ago, that there were a lot of problems in education and that it was the teacher's fault. And that was before I met very many teachers. Many teachers are struggling with how to fit nonviolence related ideas into the school day and still satisfy the standards that they have to satisfy professionally. They know that the system limits them in terms of what they want to do with students, but they are trying and they are working at it, and they're doing a lot of good. But they don't have the support of the system as a whole, because the system as a whole really doesn't buy the idea that every student is different and that learning proceeds in the way that I described, in this active, creative assimilation of information and then accommodation to it. So they struggle. What is the secret? What is the kernel of nonviolence education that is really important to get across? It's along the lines of teaching that everyone craves respect, and people who get respect are seldom violent. But disrespect is like a germ that causes hostility and violence, which can be compared to diseases that are preventable. The steps to prevention of some of our worst forms of violence will not seem very attractive in the moment, in the present day, but they are along the lines of respecting people that we do not respect at the moment, finding a way to respect the people for whom we feel neglect and contempt, and whom we despise. Now that may remind you of some themes in Christian philosophy, but it's an insight that has been discovered in many cultures over time. Nonviolence keeps getting rediscovered when people need it. And what is often discovered is that if we talk to the people that we hate, if we talk to the police, if we talk to people in authority, if we take care of people who spend their lives being despised and humiliated, you know, the ones who are left out of all the activities, the ones who are never part of the main group in an age cohort of students. If we start to respect the disrespected, we do the world a lot of good. We head off a lot of violence. We are doing violence prevention, even though it feels like, today I'm a good Samaritan. Today I'm being a good person. I'm saying hello and spending a few minutes talking to this person that nobody ever talks to. That's the kind of change in our behavior that can markedly reduce violence. But it takes a deliberate, motivated effort to do it. The personal history of a lot of our mass shooters and people who go postal, as the saying was a few years ago, and shoot up a workplace or kill a lot of people and then either kill themselves or they let the police kill them. The background of those people is often that they were people who were disrespected and who felt humiliated and that everyone was shaming them, and who built up a hostility toward the rest of us over time to the point where it boiled over. And that problem is made worse in our society, in American society, because of the ready availability of guns. I think that buildup of resentment and hostility happens all over the world. People are frustrated, people are put down and mistreated by others, and their bad feelings build up and build up. But in America, there are more guns than people. And it's easy for a person who reaches that breaking point to obtain a gun and to do terrible damage to the schools and communities around them. So I think we've got some changes to make if we want our schools to be vehicles of nonviolence education and to help our society become better equipped to deal with the problems of hostility and violence that we are reminded of every single day. What are some of the tasks ahead of us? Well, first, I would say we have to strengthen current efforts. We have to recognize the work that many teachers are doing to build healthy kids and to give them messages that they can use to be nonviolent problem solvers. We need to educate more teachers in nonviolence, understood in this way, in this sort of hands-on, skill-oriented, evidence-based way. Every school should have a peer mediation program. There's lots of research that tells us that peer mediation is good for both the behavioral side of school psychology and also for the education, the learning side. Peer mediation is a good thing, and every school should have a program in that, with teachers as advisors, but with students helping each other to solve problems using nonviolent skills. We need to educate our boards of education in a couple of ways. They need to be people who know what the learning process is like more than they do. I listen in on school board meetings, and I hear school board members making pronouncements about the schools, and one word I never hear is learning, and I don't think they understand learning very well. From an understanding of learning, a lot of other things would follow that I think would be better than the policies we are seeing nowadays. In the present day, I think boards of education also need to learn to be less defensive, particularly in majority white school districts. The boards of education and education system leadership often sounds very, very defensive, much like parents who complain that some of the school curriculum makes them feel uncomfortable. Well, I don't know if that's a criterion we should use for deciding what should be in the curriculum, what should not be, what we should discuss in school. A person who's defensive may have a socio-emotional problem, but these same administrators don't want socio-emotional skills taught in the school either. I think they have a problem that requires some socio-emotional intervention. And finally, I think there's something we can all do, whatever our interactions are with kids, is promote confidence in kids. Um, my friend Bernard Lafayette said that all the isms, racism and sexism and so on, they're all versions of what he calls childism, treating another group of people as if they were children and as if we were parental authorities or adult authorities who got to make all the decisions. Kids are smart, and they deserve to be at the table when we're discussing things that affect them. I think that would promote their confidence, and it would also attack this general ism that Bernard calls childism. So there are some ideas about where education might go in order to more fully use all the rich tools of nonviolent social change and nonviolent philosophy and psychology. If you have enjoyed this ramble, I think it's an important ramble, but if you've enjoyed it, please subscribe to this channel and give the video a like. And I will be back soon with some more ideas. Thank you.